you check the children? Show a little match sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is what
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to The Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird, and today I'm going to be reviewing the recent release on Hulu, which I watched through Disney+, Mr. Crocket. Now, we did do a trailer reaction for this one, and I think it was Robert with me, but we were like, this looks pretty good. It actually looks entertaining. And I gotta say, I was surprised at how much I like this movie. Hulu, the Huluween, remember Hulu was doing like a one type of, like a monthly holiday kind of themed movie and stuff like that, and then they were doing Huluween. And this is, it feels like it's kind of in that vein, because Mr. Crocket is kind of a weird one in that it's really enjoyable and I think it's worth your time, but it does feel like a TV movie. You know, we don't get a lot of movies that feel like TV movies anymore, and maybe it's because of the subject matter. I mean, it's about a kids TV host that has, way more going on underneath the skin than anyone thinks. And yeah, so maybe that's why I'm thinking it feels like a TV movie, but it does kind of feel like a TV movie. I don't know exactly how else to explain it otherwise than it feels kind of small, right? It doesn't feel that sprawling. There's not a ton going on outside, so it's a little bit four-walled at times. And so maybe that's what I'm bumping into, but that's like one of the only issues that I had with the film. This movie, if you want to know if you're going to like Mr. Crocket, throw on the first 5 minutes. You don't need to watch the trailer, just throw on the first 5 minutes, and if you like that, then I think it'll be worth sticking it through. Because the first 5 minutes, essentially, to give you guys the hook, you get basically a glimpse into what Pee-wee's Playhouse would have been if it was in hell. And I do mean that, because there's the hell version of Cherry, there's the Cherry. Anyone that hasn't seen Pee-wee's Playhouse might not know what I'm talking about, but it was a chair that had a face and was sentient and would talk to Pee-wee. I think there was a sentient clock. There's a sentient clock. There's a lot of interesting things, but done in a hellish way that was really entertaining, and a lot of cool practical effects in this one. So if you can handle the TV movie sort of feel and know that you're not, like, the whole third act takes place in that sort of environment. So it's not like I was worried you were only going to get the first 5 minutes, because a large chunk of the movie after that, those elements are kind of missing, and it's kind of a normal sort of fantasy slasher. But once you get to the third act, there's a lot more of that stuff from the first 5 minutes. And so I was very much appreciative of that. And the acting was entertaining. Well, I guess before I get to the acting, of course, yeah, that's my overall thoughts. I think this one's fun. I think Mr. Crocket is worth your time, and it's more entertaining than you might expect it to be. Outside of that, let me just focus on the story to start, okay? So the story is it's essentially about a mother and her young son. She's a single mother, and her son is, they've just lost their her husband and father. And so they're both grieving, and her son, she doesn't know quite how to help her son through it. It's a lot of, tablet time and stuff like that. But he's emotional and hard to parent. And so she basically tries to figure out what she can do. He's distracted by screens. And so she goes to one of those neighborhood, community boxes that usually there's, books that you can, it's hey, borrow a book, but put it back, or leave a book you don't want for someone else to borrow, that kind of thing. She finds an old VHS tape in one of those community boxes, and it's of an old children's TV show, Mr. Crocket, which essentially is kind of a Mr. Rogers analog sort of situation. And so she puts it on for him, and he is immediately drawn into it. And you see pretty quickly that there are subliminal messages aimed directly at the kids that are watching it. And it's, Mr. Crocket is hey, I'll protect you. He has a whole song about how he'll protect the kids, and they'll be friends to the end and stuff like that, as long as they, come along with him, kind of thing, And so what he does is he targets the adults of children that treat them poorly. And so at first you're like, oh, cool, Mr. Crocket. Yeah, hell yeah, get him, you know, because it's like a terrible stepfather that is abusive and stuff. And like Mr. Crocket shows up. And it's really cool, too. I really appreciated the fact that Mr. Crocket is in and of himself a new kind of bad guy. Because when he shows up to, like, you know, kill someone, he'll scold them first in a Mr. Rogers, like, you know, kids show fashion. Like, well, what you do isn't very nice, you know, and stuff like that. And all the way up until he kills them. And it's so entertaining. It's very, very entertaining. And so, yeah, the kid becomes obsessed with Mr. Crocket. And when she tries to take the tape away a number of days later, he freaks out. And unfortunately, he ends up disappearing. And the movie then, you know, after that first act becomes about the mom trying to find a way to rescue her son. And so she tries to go down the rabbit hole of who is Mr. Crocket, what is Mr. Crocket, have other people, families been affected by this because a woman randomly approached her as she was going to the community box, or after she got the tape and started playing it. Like, she was approached by a random woman on the street that knew more than she should have known and stuff. So she tries to find out the story of the Mr. Crocket and figure out a way to rescue her son, which eventually leads to her and someone else going into a portal into Mr. Crocket's world. And that's where we get more of that first 5 minutes sort of aesthetic, which I gotta say, production design is awesome, because that's all production design. Designing a whole Pee-wee's Playhouse from hell, that's production design. The crazy things in the environment, from Hell Cherry to you know, the clock on the wall to more. I don't want to spoil too much. That's why I'm sticking with those two examples. But it's really great production design, really awesome stuff, and I thought it was great. I thought the costuming was awesome. Mr. Crocket it's an iconic costume. I would not be surprised. Well, you know what? I might be, just because I think it's going to be very, very few people that actually become aware of this movie. But I would not be surprised if there were cosplays out there were this to be more popular. If this had been released in theaters, it wouldn't have made a ton of money, but it would have made enough that it would have been in the bigger, you know, larger society zeitgeist than it's probably going to be being shoveled onto Hulu right now. But that's why I'm trying to sing its praises. I think it's very much worth your time. The gore is there. It's a good time as well. I don't want to say much more, but, you know, sound design, I don't remember the score very much at all, but the sound design was great. You know, effects were awesome, practical, good stuff, really awesome. I mean, there's some digital stuff like a gateway and things like that, but it all works fine along with the practical. So yeah, guys, I don't want to say too much more about this. Mr. Crocket is, again, on Hulu, and it's worth your time. It's not a huge time investment, and I think you'll enjoy yourselves if everything that I've discussed is something that you would be fine with. So that's going to do it. Thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. We greatly appreciate it. Until next time, though, I've been Cecil Laird, and remember, stay scared.